jury deliberations have begun in the Ghislaine Maxwell federal trial this afternoon after the prosecution and defense presented closing arguments that focus primarily on her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. For some legal analysis, I want to bring in Randy Zellin. Randy, thank you so much for joining us here. I want to start off first with the timeline of this. This jury deliberations starting far sooner than what we all predicted.
And that creates quite the conundrum. First of all, I do believe that the reason why things were expedited the way that they were is because we're coming up on the Christmas holidays. And I have myself been involved in trials where I was hurt by the fact that the jury saw a holiday coming up, and quite frankly, they sped up their deliberations so this way they would not have to come back after the holiday. I can assure you the jury does not want to be deliberating past Thursday afternoon because Friday is Christmas Eve. And I think because of that, the other conundrum is the fact that the government sold this case. 1 billion witnesses, 9 zillion pieces of evidence, the trial that would go on forever, and now suddenly it's over in 3 weeks. And I'm wondering if there is a juror or there are jurors who are wondering what happened to the rest of the government's case. And that's called built-in reasonable doubt when you're looking for more information. So I do believe that that could come back in a weird way to haunt the government.
Yeah, so you're saying the prosecution possibly is going to be hurting from this because at the front of it, they said they have undeniable evidence that the whole jury was going to find Ghislaine Maxwell guilty of trafficking these girls beyond unreasonable doubt. So what do you foresee as the future for the government side of things?
Well, it's kind of like when a judge is talking and issuing a decision from the bench and it sounds like things are going real well. And then suddenly the judge says, but, or the judge says, having said that, so I will do my but, my having said that. And having said all of that, I do believe given the times that we live in, the environment that we live in, the ugliness of the allegations, the fact that the defense really was a matter of, hey, wait a minute, these women are lying because of money. I think that too is a double-edged sword because the testimony came out that, or the evidence came out that Ms. Maxwell got $30 million from Jeffrey Epstein. That's a hell of a Band-Aid or a hell of a piece of duct tape over someone's mouth or over someone's memory. So once again, we see the double-edged sword. So I do believe that there will be a conviction. Again, you had 4 women who were children at the time coming in and stating very clearly what happened to them. I do believe that Ms. Loftus's testimony in terms of their memories having been corrupted, something as horrifying as that, something as traumatic as that, I don't believe that that is going to be something that your memory will be corrupted. They're either believed or they're not. And the fact that Ms. Maxwell did not get on the stand, look the jurors in the eye and say, I've got an explanation for the evidence against me. I think ultimately there will be a guilty verdict, and there will be a guilty verdict sometime between tomorrow and Wednesday.
So you think that Ghislaine not taking the stand is one of the biggest reasons that the defense could quite possibly lose?
I don't believe that it's one reason. I think it's the cumulative effect, but I do believe as I get older and I try more cases, I do believe the jurors do want to hear a defendant say, I didn't do it, or I'm sorry, the government's mistaken. I get it, the burden's on the government, and my client and I could sit there and read the Wall Street Journal or the New York Post during the trial, and we don't have to do a damn thing, but it's human nature. If I'm accused of doing something wrong, someone is going to want to hear me say that I didn't do it. And I think here she really had nothing to lose. Unless she's trying this case for an appeal, or unless she's trying a case for a sentence, if she really was trying the case to get an acquittal or a hung jury, she really needed to get on that stand and look at those jurors and say, I didn't do what I've been accused of, and make those jurors feel that in fact she really is being treated as a scapegoat. Jeffrey Epstein isn't here, he's dead, so let's take next online. And that's something that she could have rebutted, or she could have refuted, and she could have said, listen, think of me what you will. I am not a monster. I am not an animal. I would have, and I did not, and would not have ever permitted any of these things to happen, particularly to a child.
So why didn't she take the stand? You've been a criminal defense attorney in the past. What are your thoughts?
Probably because she couldn't say it without perjuring herself.
Well, the defense did urge jurors to be skeptical of evidence that was presented from the government. Any key takeaways on evidence that was presented in this trial? As we've said, this was very high profile, lots of big names being brought up.
Well, you can really put the big names aside. In fact, the big names, again, could be something that hurts the government, because if these jurors were waiting for some salacious tale of Prince Andrew and Bill Clinton and other high-flying, notable people traveling back and forth with Jeffrey Epstein, they didn't really get it, nor did they get any real high-profile witnesses. What you did have was you had 4 women come in who were girls, who were children at the time, who were minors at the time, and they testified in graphic detail what had happened to them. And the only way to get an acquittal in this case is to accuse them of having been liars, not having been mistaken, not having misinterpreted, but they are stone cold liars who are in it for a payday. So there's really no room for the jury to go. There's no wiggle room. They either believe the women or the women are gold digging liars. And I don't think the jury is prepared to come back and say that they're gold digging liars, and that they will give Ms. Maxwell a gold star and send her back home.
Yeah, money being a huge part of both sides, prosecution and defense. Like you noted before, the prosecution saying that money also motivated Ghislaine Maxwell, like you said, that $30.7 million. And mind you, that was during the time period of 1999 to 2007, which was the alleged time that grooming and recruiting was taking place with many of these quote unquote accusers' victims.
And that's an awful lot of money for someone to look the other way. And keep in mind that Judge Nathan did instruct the jury, as I understand it, on something called conscious avoidance, or something that sounds like conscious avoidance, which is simply where you close your eyes to the high probability of wrongdoing. It is no different than me getting a suitcase from someone and being told that if I bring the suitcase from the 29th floor of my office down to the lobby and hand that briefcase over to a gentleman in a black raincoat, I'll be given $5,000. There's no defense to me to say, listen, I didn't know what was in this suitcase. I didn't know that there was a kilo of cocaine in this suitcase. Well, that's because I closed my eyes to the high probability that what I was doing was wrong. So don't be surprised that that's a very easy way for the jury to dispense with the question of guilt or innocence, simply to say, you know what, she wants to pretend that she didn't know what was going on and went like this when all of this stuff was happening. Judge told us that's no defense. Guilty.
Well, we'll see if the defense strategy holds up of Epstein being a quote master manipulator and him holding secrets against her and inconsistencies in these accusers' stories, that being the main basis of their strategy there. So we know that this trial was a lot shorter than we thought it could be. What about jury deliberations? You think we could get a verdict down sooner than we thought on that too?
Oh, we will, in my humble opinion, get a verdict no later than Thursday afternoon. These jurors are going to want to go home. They are going to want to be able to celebrate Christmas Eve and Christmas and enjoy the weekend. They are not going to want to have this hanging over their heads, and they are not going to want to have to come back on Monday when we have another short week. So yes, I do believe that the Christmas holiday will push a quicker verdict, to the extent that you need a holiday for a quick verdict in this case, given the evidence.
Well, Randy Zellen, legal analyst here with us on Live Now from Fox. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for the breakdown.
Thank you for having me.